A parasite was discovered in the brain of every human on Earth. When it was removed from the test patient, we learned two things. The parasite is actually us and suppressing the real mind. The second thing we learned is the real human mind is terrifying. Any field of science can be complex in its own way. Each scientific realm has its own contradictions and paradoxes, but the science of the human brain is different. For years the brain has eluded efforts to be understood by humans. It is special because, in a way, the brain wants to understand itself. At least, that's what humanity thought. It seems, in the end, it wasn't complicated at all. Humans simply never had the key. Humanity would have been better off not knowing the secret of its own existence. Ignorance is bliss, after all. Well, the damage is done, and it all started with one, otherwise meaningless, 1 in a million coincidence. It was nothing more than a routine brain scan of the midbrain, taking place in a city in Argentina. If the doctor had moved the scan 20 micrometers away from the exact location it was examining, humanity would have never even conceived the parasite's existence. The doctor, despite being particularly unremarkable and undistinguished, recognized the anomaly instantly. The news spread, and the ordinary man who had been the subject of the scan became patient zero. The patient was studied, a couple of articles were published, but the case grew boring and interest declined. It wasn't until 2 months later, now in Europe, that a researcher was able to find a second parasite. A few weeks later, doctors could consistently locate the parasite in any human brain. Hundreds of patients were examined from all over the world, but no matter where they came from, their age, or their race, the parasite could be found within a specific area of the brain every time. For the first time, the case truly gained traction. It was a mystery. Every human who had been scanned had exactly one microscopic parasite somewhere within a region of their midbrain. It became even more phenomenal when a German research team published a report. The tiny parasite was able to release toxins so powerful that they affected the entire brain, numbing countless neurons and preventing their full use. In other words, the parasite appeared to be suppressing parts of the brain. The theories that surfaced, as you may imagine, excited the interest of every human being who heard of them. What if we removed the parasite? What if we could use our brain at its full potential? It was not long until humanity had its first volunteer, and an operation was scheduled with the most advanced technology available. The parasite was removed, and the worm died as soon as it was out of the brain, as expected. Parasites rarely survive long without a host. As humanity watched on their televisions, and journalists clicked their pens with anticipation, the patient slowly opened his eyes. As everyone who watched that awful experiment recalls, the first thing the patient did was smile. This smile burned into the mind of every human being who saw it. It stretched across his face and pulled the lips so tight that people thought they would tear. Then, slowly, he stood. His movements could only be described as intentional. Deliberate. There was not a single wasted effort, not one muscle lagging behind, and not one part of the body, from head to toe, moving without direction. This, humanity realized immediately, was how the human body was meant to work. This was total coordination between every part of the body. It was perfection. At that moment every human in the world felt one thing. They felt afraid. It was not a rational fear, it was as if some awful memory had just awoken from a deep, million-year sleep, a primal fear that had hibernated through countless generations, and was now screaming deep within every human brain on the planet. And yet,